announce that we're holding this meeting by Zoom, and according to the governor's decree during the COVID, and it's on Zoom. And if you want to participate, you can go to the website for the town and find your way in, and don't say anything you'd regret later, like Thomas would say, and you'll show up on a TikTok video or something like that, right? He's got all those clever sayings. I don't think I can compete with him. We'll take a roll call to determine whether we have a quorum, and then we'll call the meeting to order. Carolyn?
Here.
Jay?
Here.
Timothy is here. So we have a quorum, and we'll call the meeting to order at 7:39. We have minutes from the past meeting, and so do we have a motion to accept those?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And any omissions, corrections, or additions, or whatever? All right, we'll take a roll call on that. Carolyn?
Aye.
And Jay?
Aye.
And Tim is aye, so that's unanimous. So we passed the minutes. We have a few minutes. Well, we can start the Center Village discussion. I don't see any harm in that. I sent you Carrie's link, I hope, right? To the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you, and today I got a proposal from Carrie to continue on in the process, and she would, along with a colleague, Sarah, I think so, they would come and help facilitate some public forums, and then begin to consolidate some of that commentary to put together a realization of that sustainability. So that's something that we'll have to consider, and maybe we could vote on that the next time we meet. We can check into our holdings in terms of funds. We should have the money to do that, because we're not using everything to complete the housing production plan. We'll use some of Eloise's money for that. Don't bring her online yet.
Yeah.
But did you have a chance to look at the storybook?
It actually was very nice, very well done. I liked the format.
I think it's engaging to the point where the public will respond positively to it. And if we can go through it, as part of this process, and find some of the little foibles in it, and perhaps make some additions to strengthen it as a result of some of these forums and stuff, I think it'll come to a pretty good presentation. But it's interesting to look at. Plus, you can link to so many other documents, like the open space plan and the former housing production plan and some of that stuff. So I like that feature a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Jay,
I like,
I thought it was good. There's some
we did
interesting new things I learned from it.
yes.
But I didn't have a lot of time. I looked at, you sent 2 links. One of them was like a summary, and the other was the detail or something.
Well, one of them is the plan in the traditional format.
Mm-hmm.
And then one is the storybook, which is that animated version that, as you scroll through, different screens come up and you can link to stuff, which.
Oh, okay.
You haven't looked at that yet. That's the one that Carolyn and I are excited about.
Oh, I looked at it on my phone. I don't think it did all that. But.
No, because if you look at it on a regular screen, as you scroll, it keeps bringing up new options for you to link to. And
right, and
nice.
And so like half the screen would stay stagnant on a map or a photo, and then as you scrolled, the words would kind of go by and you could read that section, and it was very, very well done.
So
check that out.
So far, we're the only ones who have seen it. So yeah, one of the things I thought we should discuss is, where shall we send it now, who else would we like to preview it before we put it to general distribution?
Well, the first thing I was going to do was compare what we got to what we set out to get.
Mhm.
And I went looking for because I remember at one time they gave us a proposal. I can't find it. Do you have it? Or did you check to see that they had done what they had set out to do?
Well, I think the project got truncated to some degree because of COVID. And as a result, the state ended up saying, time's up, you have to submit what you've got. And-
Oh, okay.
And so we had talked about public forums, and we did some small meetings, but we never included the range of folks because we had a larger circle of folks that were intimately involved in the center that we wanted to include, and then we wanted to expand it to the general public. So that's what we're proposing to do in this next round of activity. So I'll send you that proposal. Actually, I'll do it right now.
Well, I saw the proposal for round 2.
Oh, did I send it already?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So
I thought they were drone flights, and I can't remember. There's a bunch of. I had a list of stuff that I was looking for, which included, what do we do about the issues of septic and water and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
I don't know
There's
whether
no-
that was ever included in the plan though, because that may have been over the budget.
So we can look at that initial proposal, but we're at a stage where, well, we can look at what we've got in our kitty and decide what we can accommodate. But I would think I think it's 6,000 or something like that. I would think
Yeah, that's what it was.
we can probably pull this off. And the thing that excites me about it is that it really is on a schedule to be completed by the fall, and we would try to push the public forum part of it significantly. So public forums for that and public forums for housing means that we'll be drawing folks into a lot of conversations. And because housing is of interest to us in the Center Village, it means that the housing production plan can help address that question at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah, I also liked at the end of the document, it listed action items in several different categories, and then kind of, short-term, medium-term, long-term action items.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, but I'd like to see us do. I mean, I think it's good to work on the short-term things, but I think I'd like to see us spend time working on the longer-term ones, even though there's not a whole lot we could do right now. I think if we came up with what I'd like to come up with is a long-term plan.
Yeah,
it's kind of a goal for the project.
I was looking at state legislative issues, and our rep Megan Kilcoyne has got a proposal for the cultural corridor listed as one of her endeavors through to Princeton.
Wow.
So I thought that goes in with this Center Village stuff. So I think maybe we can get Central Mass to help us bring Megan into the conversation so she understands what we're trying to do. And then she can be a little more articulate about what it is she's trying to accomplish with that cultural corridor.
Yeah, I think that's good to do, because we did that when we had the walk through town. We had someone representing the financing group that helps you repurpose old buildings.
Yeah.
We spent some time talking about that, and it didn't sound like when you get down to the details, it doesn't necessarily fit. So if you kind of understand what they can and cannot do at the outset, you don't spend a lot of time chasing your tail afterwards. So that's a good idea.
The Transportation Advisory Committee met before our meeting tonight, and they're going to talk next time they meet in a month about the Complete Streets Prioritization Plan, which had a lot to do with Center Village and sidewalks and parking and that sort of stuff. And they want to revisit the prioritization list because they want to use, I think, some of the ARPA money to do some of the engineering for some of those early projects. So they'd be shovel ready. And then if we go after Complete Streets money, which is available, and we capture any of that, then we'd be able to move forward with those projects because we'd already have the engineering in hand. So that was a good sign. Spending money to make money. I like that. Whenever we get a chance. Other items in the Center Village stuff that we need to talk about right now?
Yeah, I
No,
think Beth, that having some group meetings at least. That's good.
Right.
Meet live.
And theoretically, that we can do some in-person stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, shall we bring our panelists in and get everybody introduced and warmed up in the 10 minutes we've got, and then we can start the discussion at 8, so we don't have to dilly-dally. Does that make sense?
Works for me. Elevating everybody.
We'll get a chance to introduce Emily to the crowd. Hi, Emily.
Hello.
How did you end up sideways for a minute there?
Oh, am I sideways?
No, not now, but you were.
Oh, okay. I'm on my phone in the office, so I was adjusting it.
I thought that was kind of cool.
As long as I'm not like upside down or anything, just let me know.
So in the screen is Carolyn, who is on the Conservation Commission as well as the Planning Board. She's Chair of Conservation. And then Jay is the owner of the Orchard Hill Equestrian Center here in Berlin up on Sawyer Hill. And then the bearded wonder down below, if he's down below, the mutton chops, there is Bob Blair, who is involved intimately with the Council on Aging here in town. And he's also involved more recently with a lot of activity having to do with the restoration of the Hearst House that the town has owned for a long time and is gonna fix back up and put into use. And then Eloise is the town clerk, who's also on the Housing Partnership. She's the chair of that, and she's also on the Capital Planning Committee. And she's also on the
CPA.
Community Preservation Act Committee, as is Carolyn. And then James Holyoke, who's not on the screen, but present.
I know, for whatever reason, it's allowing me to allow them to talk, but it won't promote them. So I'm gonna keep trying, but at least they'll be able to talk.
Okay, good. So James is also on the Community Preservation Act Committee, and he's a realtor here in town. So he's involved with, he enjoys the housing issues. And Emily, why don't you tell us about yourself while we still have a few minutes, and we can, we'll all know all about you.
Well, it's nice to meet everyone. My name's Emily. I've been with CMRPC for over 5 years now, I believe. I've been focused on housing for a number of years, specifically working on housing production plans and other housing studies, the housing elements of master plans, but I love just anything related to planning. So economic development, historic and cultural resources, the environment and open space and recreation planning. So I like to dabble in everything, but I do end up working a lot with housing primarily. So really excited to meet all of you. And I've heard this is a great group from other people at CMRPC, they've told me. So yeah, I guess this meeting, I'll be talking a little bit about kind of what the project the next year is going to be looking like, and expectations, and yeah, and then we'll go from there.
Excellent.
Carolyn, Mary Porter's in
I
the
was
audience.
just gonna say, yep, you want me to
She'll-
promote her as
she'll
well?
come in, yep, and Evie at some point should show up as well.
So it finally let me promote James,
Good.
and there goes Mary. I don't know why, Eloise, it doesn't seem to want you to be on camera. Oh, there we go. Finally got everybody.
So Mary, we've been introducing everybody. Mary's on the Capital Planning Committee as the member who is representing the Finance Committee. And I warn you, she's an attorney, so it's dangerous to have her here, but it's probably all right.
Tim is fresh off another town meeting where I was a bit agitated. That's because I've just been talking to Carolyn, so you know.
See, I got her primed for the evening at like 5 o'clock tonight, so.
I'm much calmer now, Emily. Oh,
No worries. Feel free to vent. It's okay. Safe space.
So everybody, Bob, can you speak?
Sometimes.
Okay, good. So we got your voice. And James, we don't have your voice, or we do?
James is muted.
So we still don't have James. And Eloise, can we hear you?
James is trying really hard.
And what about Eloise?
Eloise, I don't know.
She's not muted.
No,
And we don't have Evie yet, but we still have a few minutes, so.
I think Eloise often comes on and then goes and makes dinner.
Just. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Oh.
Yeah, it would be nice to get Eloise to be able to speak.
I can call her.
Eloise,
Oh, she's got her hand up. Huh.
she does.
It should be sent. Well, I'm going to check my emails. Sometimes she emails me.
Eloise, is your microphone working?
I think so.
Oh,
there
there you
we
are.
Good. Good.
Yeah. Oh, and so James just texted me. He's in the car driving back from Maine.
So he can listen.
So he can listen.
Okay, good. Well,
He
that
says
was
he
one.
can't figure out the microphone, but he's listening.
Great.
James, don't text and drive.
Too late.
You can't get here from there.
Does anyone want to add anything about their profiles as for Emily's benefit before we begin the serious conversation in a couple minutes?
And my right side's better than my left side.
There you go.
I don't know, Tim. Should I talk about the greenhouse?
The greenhouse,
On Walnut Street.
Walnut Street?
is it going well?
Yeah, it's kind of been, it's winter and things kind of need a chance to lay fallow and not do, not be disturbed. Yes, it is going well.
Good. There was a Superfund site here in town that Mary and a friend who it may join us in a minute have come into ownership of, and so they've been cleaning it up. But it's a former greenhouse operation that had some minor spills over the time.
Yeah, oil spills. It was DEP brownfield, but the EPA was not interested in it, so it never got to the level of Superfund. It's just
Super fun by Berlin standards.
Yeah.
Up by Berlin, yeah, it was kind of an excitement here. Number 2 fuel oil, right? But there were, Emily, you can visualize this. There were 5 275-gallon tanks all above ground, and then three larger tanks, 2 of them 400,000 gallons, or excuse me, 4,000 gallons, and one 3,000-gallon tank. So the tanks and the sludge in them are all gone. I had, for about a month, I had 6 55-gallon drums sitting beside the road in front of the dilapidated greenhouse with these big yellow signs that said hazardous waste on it. And below that, it had my name. Not Evie's name, but my name.
Oh my God.
Now, if they were full of oil, you'd be rich right now.
Right?
Yeah, that's right. Mary, do you want to text Evie and just a reminder that we've started, because we're going to start now? And
Yeah, I
If you
know
wouldn't-
she plans to be here, so I'll just give her the nudge.
yeah, that's what she had said to me too. But anyway, so as everybody knows, that the town has entered into agreement with the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission to accomplish 2 goals. One is to update the housing production plan, which we're supposed to do every 5 years. Now we're well over 10%, so some might argue it's not entirely necessary, but one of the things that we hope to achieve in this project was to help focus on the fact that the town doesn't have a housing trust, and that because we're a Community Preservation Act community now with money that goes into housing, trying to establish a means to expend some of that money through the trust would be beneficial. So we hope that one of our goals might be to educate the public about the benefits of a trust. Now, we've got an article on the warrant coming up for May that's there to create a trust. So in some ways that might be premature, but I think the town is of a mind to probably vote in favor of that. But at that point, we'd be trying to fill those positions of 7 people. And I think the conversation that we can work on here with Emily as we do some of these public forums might hopefully encourage people to participate and join in. So that's one objective. There's Evie. And then the other part of the plan or the work is to update the master plan and the housing portion of the master plan. So those are our 2 key objectives. And Evie is with us. And Evie, do you speak yet?
I got it. Yep. Mike,
Look at
can you hear me?
So, yes, and so we've all introduced ourselves, and Evie, this is Emily, and Evie is one of the driving forces behind the 19 Carter, along with Mary, who's also a significant participant. And a lot of people, of course, have contributed, but Evie's keenly interested in the center of the town and housing in general, and she and Mary are the ones who bought the Superfund site together. So with that,
Brownfield, you keep elevating us.
yeah, well, it's a nice try. So Emily, what shall we do? How do you want to kick this off?
Let's see. I can give a little bit of a background and introduction about kind of the goals of this project in the coming year. We'll start with that.
Sure.
Because I'm just not sure like where everyone's at with knowledge about, housing production plans and 40B and all that. I won't go too deep into anything like that, but
Well,
good place to start.
Eloise has worked on those before, but I don't think anybody else has. So it'd be good
Okay.
to, yep, start from the start. Yep.
Yeah. So like Tim said, this project will kind of be a 3-pronged project. The first of which is an update to the housing production plan. which is a state approved, DHCD approved 5-year plan to enhance the production of housing that is affordable to low or moderate income households in a community. So the current one expires, I believe, in 2022. So this update's going to include new data, particularly when we get new census data from 2020 census. That's going to be great to have. Updates if there's any maps. We'll review the existing strategies, see what's been done already, what new kind of like programs are out there that the town could kind of tackle, whatever is appropriate. And then there's also the really important public outreach component. Typically we do a community survey and 1 or 2 workshops and some interviews with stakeholders. And so that's always a really exciting part of the project to see what people have to say. And I have some fun activities that we'd like to do for the workshops and like mapping activities. And it sounds like kind of land use priorities is something that, Tim explained to me that it will be definitely a goal of this housing project. So this is also going to go hand in hand with the update of the housing and population chapter of the master plan. So it looks like the town had a master plan from 2013. So definitely could use an update on that, especially with so much changing in terms of housing and so much going on. And so we just want to dive into that chapter, see what plan for the next 5, 10, 20 years, what housing population we can anticipate, and what we want to plan for the future of Berlin. Also, particularly since Berlin's passed CPA, it's really important to strategize the most appropriate ways to spend the funding, because there's so many ways that this funding can go towards just for housing, never mind the historic and open space and preservation aspects. So we're going to use this planning process to determine what populations may be most in need of housing. Is it seniors, first-time home buyers, low-income households, all of the above? What types of housing is most desired? Is it condominiums, apartments, smaller cottage housing, anything? So, and of course, potential land that could be used for future housing. So the research and the public outreach will all play into the project for that. And then the final element is has to do with setting up the Municipal Affordable Housing Trust. So Tim told me that that is on the docket for the annual town meeting. So if that's passed now, CMRPC can help out with kind of getting that in motion. You've got to set up a board of trustees. I think a number of other steps. This is also my first time working this closely with getting a Municipal Affordable Housing Trust fund set up. So it's kind of a learning process for me, but I'm super excited to really get into this. And yeah, if it's not passed at the upcoming town meeting, then we'll just work on a lot more public outreach to kind of get that ready for the subsequent time that it's on the docket for annual town meeting. Yeah, we can try to figure out where to go from here, how often we want this group to meet. We've got until March 2023 to get this all done. So that's a good amount of time. I'm glad we're getting this off pretty soon. But typically housing production plans will take about 8 to 12 months. Luckily this one, you already have one in place. So it might not take that long. It depends on how motivated a group kind of is. I've had some towns that are kind of sluggish and won't meet a lot, but if this group is really gung-ho and ready to meet and really promoting the survey and any workshops, then it can get done in a shorter amount of time. So yeah, any thoughts, any questions?
So Emily, what's driving that date you mentioned, March of 23, did you say? What drives that date?
That's the contract with CMRPC. So that's when
Okay.
it's up. Yeah. So can be flexible with that, but we do try to make our deadlines.
I tried to read through that document that I think we're talking about that's on the town warrant to set up a housing partnership trust. And I didn't see anything or any reason why we wouldn't pass it. Is there something I missed?
No, given the fact that the CPA money is building up and that Eloise does have somewhat of a war chest from past mitigation, but the housing partnerships capacity to accomplish some of the things that a housing trust can do limits the opportunity to expend that money. I think going to town meeting and saying, give us the opportunity to establish this trust legally is a no-brainer, and I think that'll pass unanimously almost. I mean, I don't see any problem. What I noticed, I participated in a mass housing partnership meeting the other day, and they talked about that you establish the trust, and then in a lot of cases, I guess towns establish bylaws for the trust at the same time, which sort of is operating procedures. But frequently, like in Concord, they passed the trust one year, which was a couple of years ago for them, and then they passed the bylaws once the committee was established. And my sense is that really the opportunity for us is to pass the trust and then work on the bylaws from May through the remainder of this project. So at the end of it, we end up with those bylaws prepared, and that gives the trust sort of the operating procedure that they'd use to accomplish some of the tasks. And you'd be in a position where you'd go into town meeting in May of 23, able to say, you know, we want this amount of money put into this activity for that the housing trust wants to accomplish. It might be first-time home buyers, down payments, or rental assistance for some of the folks that are living in the apartments down at Riverbridge, or you know, I mean, there's lots of programs, and I think that's the nice thing about this. The trust can get motivated and educated about opportunities as we go through this process with Emily. At least that's the way I see it.
I don't see any issue, Tim, with separating those two tasks, making the trust and then making the bylaws. I think that's fine. I did read through the trust, because that's what I do. I read documents. And we need a global change, Emily, because we've entered the 21st century. Berlin now has a select board. We're no longer the Board of Selectmen. And
Good to know.
you know, that's a global change throughout the document. I just, you know, I caught it. It was one of those things popped out for me. And I don't know if you want to take any other comments from me while we're on it. This is an area that I don't know much about, but, you know, like I said, I just read things. And the other part that there were a few other ones. We talked about the power of the trustees on in paragraph 5 there. And it reads, the power of the trust shall be the following, except that any purchase, so on, subject to 2/3 vote. I think you might want to change that around and just start out saying any purchase, sale, lease, and so on is subject to a 2/3 vote, and then afterwards say the powers of the trust shall be as follows. There's something in that sentence that's in the wrong order. We could talk about it at a different time too.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. Because that's what we need, the legal.
Yeah. And at the very end, you know, there's an annual report and it says 10 paper copies. And I said, why are we doing that? Because we have to get 10 paper copies and an electronic copy. How about 1 paper copy and an electronic copy? Because either we need paper or we don't. And 10 copies was just kind of one of the, just like Where'd we get that number? I'm not gonna suggest anything, but let's see. And the last question I had about it is we call out 7 trustees. And I know from time to time here in Berlin, we have trouble filling our existing committees and boards. Do we really want 7? Is 5 enough? And
Emily, my sense is that that's a state requirement, right?
That
Oh.
was also my sense. They lay out who they expect to serve
Yeah.
on the committee, or the trustees. Yeah.
Do they
Okay.
expect representatives from other boards as well as at large, like CPA? Does,
Do you know, Emily?
Pull it up. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can see if I can find it. But
I
yeah,
know that we got to stick with the 7, though. I know that. And that's unfortunate, like you've said, Mary, because 7, and this is a group that has a lot of responsibility and power. So
Yeah.
it's a little different than some other boards.
and that's 7 voting trustees, yeah, not like liaison.
Right.
It does make it tougher. I don't know. Do you suppose the state calls out 10 paper copies as well? Work.
I stole this language, so I mean, but I don't have any trouble manipulating that. I mean, obviously, you bought one in the town clerk's office, the selectman's office, in the library or something like that. But so you do 5 and you argue it needs to be electronically available as well or something. Yeah.
So I think it must be electronically available these days, but the question is how much paper do you? Anyway,
Less.
Sorry.
Less the better, right?
Yeah, pretty minor point, but I think for a town like Berlin, 7 trustees is hard.
No, I think we're stuck on that one.
Yeah.
And I don't recall it saying they needed to be representative of certain boards. But we can check that if Emily doesn't discover it this evening, where that's something we can follow back on. Do you want to talk about the sequence of events and how you see when the public forums are most appropriate in the process and how that matches up with summer vacations and stuff like that? And as we try to forecast when we might be trying to accomplish some of those?
definitely. Yeah, it can depend community to community, but I know generally people are kind of off on vacation, doing their own thing in the summer months. So probably not have a workshop during that time. I would say spring or fall tends to be the best times to hold a workshop, especially if we're going to try to do something in person. That would be cool to get off the screen. Typically, we start with the community survey, and then we can kind of build upon some of the responses we get from the community survey. So that's definitely something I can start to work on. And then at our next meeting, I could bring a draft or something, or maybe just an example I've used in the past. And we can kind of go over it and give you a sense of the format of the survey, the number of questions, what's being asked, what we're trying to target. And then we can talk about who we're trying to target. And then following meeting, we'll kind of talk about outreach options. So that's kind of the starting process. It'll take a few months between developing the survey, having it out for a good amount of time, usually around 4 weeks. Surveys end up being out, and then summarizing all the results. And then from there, we can try to hold a workshop depending on kind of the time of year. Maybe we want to postpone it till like the fall, because we do have till March next year. So we're not crunched for time. And we should discuss like people's comfort for frequency of meeting. If this is more of a once per month meeting, or we want to get that survey out there as soon as possible. So maybe the first few meetings will meet more frequently, and then take a little break in the summer if people are on vacation. It's up to you all. I'm here to help and willing to meet as little or as often as possible.
So are we talking about this trust being the group or this group?
No, the trust is a different entity altogether, and we would vote to create a trust at town meeting, and then members would be, I forget how the appointing process goes. Is it by the selectmen? I can't even remember now.
Yeah, I think that was it.
But anyway,
But the Board of Selectmen,
this group, if you're willing after tonight's meeting to continue to participate, it's the planning board and the rest of these faces that hopefully could end up being the sort of this advisory committee to this process going forward over the next, 12 months. And so that's one of the things that you have to think about is, are you interested in participating? Is this something that you'd like to continue with over the course of the next 12 months? And if so, that's great. We'd love to have you. The planning board spearheaded the housing production plan along with the housing partnership and Eloise last time and the time before. And I think we've assumed that we'd be doing that again this time. So having you guys on board would be a big plus and a benefit, because I think you represent a bunch of different constituencies and interests, and that's important to us. And there may be some other individuals that you could identify that ought to participate as well. So, there's this sort of core group that would meet throughout the process, help steer the process and help energize it and get the community involved and make suggestions about some of these forums and questions for the questionnaire and, evaluate some of the early findings and draw some conclusions from that and perhaps suggest some new directions or new opportunities that we haven't looked at as we proceeded, so that Emily could then sort of tailor the process to our objectives, So I think
And so
that
the trust, then that group just sits there and waits till we're done?
no, I would think if you can get the trust voted at the town meeting and then they get appointed, you'd end up sometime in the summer. They could certainly continue to participate with this group as we formulate what's going on. That would be great, because it would seem as though they benefit significantly by participating. It's just like Mary said, trying to find individuals that
Probably be all this.
want to participate is not always easy. And this isn't going to be an easy committee to be on. When you go and participate in the workshops for folks that are involved with housing trusts, I mean, it's significant. But I think it's exciting at the same time. And the fact that there's at least $50,000 a year coming out of CPA for it, and potentially more in some years, given the nature of a project that might come to the town meeting. And also the fact that there's money in Eloise's housing war chest from past mitigation. I mean, there's money available, and it won't be expended without the trust being a viable, wing of town government. So if we talked about timetable, if we were to generate a questionnaire, and we acted on it sometime in April and got it out in May, announced it at town meeting that it would be coming to people. It'd be electronic as well as paper. So people, how do you usually throw that out to the community? I mean, in the past master plans, I remember we did a townwide mailing of the document, or at least I suppose nowadays you could do a single page announcement that went to everybody and say, you can go online and and participate in this process, but if you want to pick up a paper copy, they're available at the library in 19 Carter and the town hall or whatever. What have you done in other towns?
Yeah, typically we get the most responses online. So
Yeah.
using those networks, posting it on the town website or any like town run social media sites, sending it out to maybe like the schools. We've also, yeah, definitely done like mailers before. Like sometimes you can include like a reminder in like any electric bills that go out, or like I just did a survey with the town of Princeton, and they send out like their town census, and we were able to like include it in that. I've done like postcards before. That can take like a little chunk of money like out of the budget because you're not including it with a mailing that's already going out. But that's definitely an option that we can do. Create a nice little postcard reminder, go to this link. It'll have like a QR code, which we're all experts at now after going to restaurants, where you just scan it and it'll just on your phone and it'll pull up the survey. So you can just take it right then and there. And then of course it's important to have paper copies out at like the senior centers and town hall, library, just good public places to reach all members of all different populations. So just trying to get it out as much as possible. I like the idea of announcing it at town meeting. You really get a lot. I mean, I haven't been to a Berlin town meeting, but if you get a good turnout there, that can be an awesome way to spread the word. Print out like a little flyer, something people can take home with them. So many options. And that's why we need a core group like working on this, so you can use your expertise and networks to get the word out there. Even just word of mouth too. Like that can just go so far, just telling, your neighbor like, hey, there's a survey out now. Why don't you take it? You never know who they're going to tell then. So yeah, that's something we will definitely work on and fine tune and get a good outreach strategy in place.
So if indeed we got the survey out in May and we're saying it would be out for 4 weeks, and then you tabulated those results, that would be sometime the latter part of June. So does it make sense to delay on the public forums and perhaps work more closely with a potential housing trust group and expand this core group to 15 or 20 people, and then go into the fall with the notion that we'd start in September with some of the public forums? Is that a timetable that makes sense? Or is that waiting too long?
That makes sense to me. Any folks have any input on that? But I like that idea. That
Eloise has got her hand up. Yes, Eloise.
Just remember that there is a state primary September 6th, and then the state election. And a lot of Berlin tends to empty out in the summer.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do a survey, I think in the past, I couldn't remember who we used, but we did a Survey Monkey.
Yep, that's the platform that we use as well.
Eloise, when does the transfer station mailing go out? What month?
I don't know. I'm so busy with my own stuff, and I know Dennis is doing a mailer with the property tax bills, but they were sent to the printer today.
Right, so we could have something to pass out at town meeting,
Yep.
like on the table, but unless we have the survey ready, because we could have a little postcard with a QR code or a link if we could have the survey ready by May 3rd.
Excuse me? What's a QR link?
A QR code is that little black square that has like abstract patterns in it that you see, And don't worry, we'll put a real link on it too. And
Good, because I don't have a smartphone,
I know.
so I would be at a disadvantage.
Well, we would not make it dependent only on the QR code.
Thank you.
I was about to tell Emily that her age was showing when she got into the QR code, and then I kept my mouth shut. But Eloise, thank you for opening it back up. Yeah.
Well, I represent the other people.
I'm with
Hey,
you.
I didn't use QR codes until COVID. And when
Yeah.
anytime you went to a restaurant, I was like, can I have a menu? And they'd be like, it's right there. It's the QR code.
Yeah, yeah. It's fun going out with my dad. You have to just hand him your phone. And if we did have the survey questions ready for May 3rd, we could have printed copies of them also to hand out at town meeting. If we thought we could get it done that quickly, then those who prefer paperless would have that option, but we would also have the option to hand out paper copies for just the cost of the printing.
Love that idea. Yep. And we can have like drop off boxes. Like,
We
for
have a
example,
drop-off box.
have one right here. that
There you
didn't
go.
out. But yeah, at whatever town hall or any community space for people to drop off their hard copies.
Yeah, we do that with the town census. And we have a drop-off box in the lobby of the town offices.
So over the course of time, Emily, you've obviously developed some questions that are your favorites. How long is the survey usually? 10 or a dozen questions, or?
I would say usually around 15 questions, because
Yeah.
some of them start out with demographic kind of questions if we want to get a sense of that. So like how many people are living in a household? What's your maybe your age or household income, something like that. So we can figure out what kind of demographic questions make sense. And then yeah, some other diving deep into the town affordable. Are there certain types of housing that are lacking? Do you want to stay in this town into retirement? Are you trying to move out of here as soon as possible? Like kind of questions like that. So yep, I definitely have a bunch of questions that I can bring to our next meeting, whenever that will be. And we can kind of figure out what the survey is going to be looking like.
I think when we did the open space plan, I'm not going to be able to remember the name of the young man from Central Mass Regional Planning that helped us, but I think he gave us, say, 30 questions, and we chose which ones we thought were the information that we were trying to gather and narrowed it down.
Yeah, we can.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, Tim, is there any way we can get a dedicated email location so all of this information can go up there and we can peruse it at our leisure? I find it hard to go to a meeting and make a decision when I've just seen the information for the first time.
So almost like a Google Doc, is that what we call it?
It is.
Yeah,
Where we-
so I was gonna mention that too. I usually create like a Dropbox. Is anyone familiar with Dropbox? Where I can just add a bunch of documents. I can add minutes and agendas from meetings, examples from other towns, like any good information that's out there related to housing. Organize it into specific folders, and then I'll send you the link and you can access that at any time. How does that sound?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like Emily because the Google Doc requires you to use a Gmail address to access it. I run into that with town, other town committee, and Dropbox does not use it email, so that might be better for a broader audience.
Good.
Right. Yeah, if you could also kind of just keep a email list of the group, and just, hey, I threw something in there today, go check it out. Because some of
Yeah.
us that sit on 3 committees don't have time to go say, hey, wonder what's in Dropbox today. So,
Totally understand. Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely.
If there's if I know to go looking, then I will go look.
I think the timing sounds good. I think it's critical to get the school population involved. And as we remember, those of us that had kids recently, it's May through the middle of June, right? And it gets crazy in June, but if we can get that survey done, then everybody leaves town, or a lot of people do. And then we could reconvene. Whoever's doing the tabulating can do that over the summer, and then we can check it out again in September.
Yeah. Right, so if we set late April as the deadline for having the questionnaire prepared, that should be pretty doable.
Now, if we want to piggyback on planning board meetings, I don't know how the planning board members feel about using the 12th of April is 3 weeks away,
Don't we have a public hearing scheduled for
the 26th.
the 26th? Okay.
Yeah, so the 12th wouldn't interfere with the hearing. But if we wanted to, we could meet. This group could meet again on the 12th and square away this survey issue. If Emily was able to send us, like you suggested, Carolyn, a sample list of questions, and we all had a chance to look at that, and then when we met, if we meet on the 12th, we could go over those and see what our favorites were, obviously, and discuss what might be included or not included. And then Emily could proceed with generating that. And then we'd be in a good position to launch it at town meeting, and then give people the month of May to respond. The tabulation would happen in June. I would think that the committee might want to meet in July and maybe the first part of July, the latter part of August, or something like that over the summer, and see if we can entice some people into the notion of participating in the housing trust, get them to participate in just a couple quick conversations over the course of the summer to keep momentum up, and then launch into, we'd have an opportunity to look at what the survey results were over the course of the summer, and when we got into the fall, be ready to launch into the forums. Is that a schedule that works for people?
Yep.
Jay and Carolyn, how do you, Tom isn't here, but are you comfortable with our using up planning board time at the next planning board meeting on the 12th?
I am. I think this is important enough, and the faster we get it rolling, the better off I think we'll be.
Yeah. And then I guess for Bob and James and Evie and Mary and Eloise, are you willing to continue to sit with us for a little while longer, at least, to get this thing launched? Look at that. Bob says yes. Evie's not sure. We'll talk to Evie later. Eloise, did you raise your hand?
Well, my right hand's trying to raise, but my left hand's pulling it down.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Yeah, I'll give it a go.
That's great. Well, that would be good. And if you do have other folks that can you, off the top of your head, is there anybody that you think we should really be dragging, kicking and screaming into this process?
Well, I was
some-
wondering if we wanted to try and get someone from either Mosaic or Camelot.
Oh, that's an idea. Who, do you got
Um,
any suggestions?
I have texted one person, yes, just now, about
Okay.
20 minutes ago, so I'll see if I get a response. But there's maybe a couple others that might be willing to, that I know, if anybody else knows anybody, just because I think that's that certainly that sort of community is something that we've been talking about planning board.
You know, and so Emily, Camelot and Mosaic are two co-housing groups that got established here in, well, probably about 15 years ago now. There's 66 units of co-housing. There's two different entities, but they both have community buildings, but they've been very active in a number of town committees over the course of time, and they do represent a housing choice issue that is sort of interesting. But as you talk about that, it might be interesting to see if we can get somebody from Riverbridge who's in the apartments down there, because there's, of course, 200 apartments, and it might be helpful to have somebody that's living on that basis in town to participate as well.
Since there's discussion about the center of town involved in all of this, I would think Jane Sawyer would be an obvious addition.
Yeah. So Carolyn, you've reached out to some folks at Sawyer Hill, and then does somebody want to talk to Jane? Bob will?
Sure.
Great, okay. And I'll try to find somebody from Riverbridge.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, those would be good entities, yeah. Good. What else can we tell you, Emily?
So we're meeting, did we decide April 12th is the next meeting?
Will that work
Yep.
for you?
Yes. Will it be around this time or later or earlier or?
The planning board meets at 7:30. Usually if we've got an A&R or something like that, we try to tuck it in real quick at the beginning, and then we can get into something like this. So 8 would be the time that works for us.
Okay, that works for me then.
Did those dates good for Bob and Mary and
Yep.
Evie? James, we can't hear from, so.
Tom will never go away again.
No, he'll never go
I
away.
know. He's like, what have you done?
Wait till he listens to the tape, right? If he has
Yeah.
time. Tom is the chair of the committee, but he's in Puerto Rico, so he gave up his chance to steer this process. So
Yeah.
he'll regret it forever. Any other questions from folks that are here? So if we kick this off appropriately, Emily?
This was awesome. I think this is a great first meeting. It's
Oh,
been
good.
great to meet all of you. Really excited to get working on this. I've heard good things about Berlin. This is my first project in Berlin, so excited to get to know the town.
Well,
Tim, I don't know if this is an appropriate question or if it's peripheral to what we're talking about, but I wonder if there's some way of finding out what's on the mind of the people who bought the Coldwell / National Lumber property.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
it's certainly part of the Center Village discussion,
Yeah,
and then tangentially has repercussions for this discussion as well. So I think we may very well use that avenue the Center Village discussion, because we had talked about what ifs before, you know, and I know Jay and Evie particularly have asked that question a lot and tried to say, you know, if the day comes. And this new group, you know, they're a mystery to us. They're out of what, Texas or whatever. So, and owning all these National Lumber sites now, what's in their master plan would be worthy of discussion, obviously. So, you know, it's right. We need, the town needs to be proactive on this, I think, and whether it's through this group or through the Center Village study, I think probably the Center Village study makes the most sense at this point.
Should we
So
try to reach out through a
Let me
letter,
talk-
an email?
Let me talk to Margaret and see if she has thoughts about, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that would be, maybe Evie would like to host a meeting at 19 Carter for the new owners.
Did somebody buy National Lumber? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I can give you a little bit of the inside corporate perspective, which is community engagement is pretty important to these guys. I don't know how high up the list Berlin would be on the list of this is an important area to look after. But there's somewhere in that corporation is somebody whose job it is to do this kind of community outreach and engagement. There is somebody in that corporation if it's big enough. The local management should know about it, but if they're busy, they might not really, you know, and with a change in management, that might be a bit obscure, but there is that activity goes on corporate.
Good.
And they welcome it, because then when there's an issue, they have somebody to go to and say, you know, say one of their trucks runs somebody over or something. They want to know people in the town.
Good. Good.
Right.
Yep. Well, let me ask Margaret if she has some thoughts about how we might proceed, because certainly when we get into the Center Village discussion, this next enhanced portion of it, that's got to be, National Lumber is in the center of town, Emily, and it was an old lumber company that got started, you know, generations ago. The Colwell family owned it. It got handed down and then sold to National Lumber, and now they've been there 7 or 8 years,
I bet longer than that.
maybe 10.
At
Anyway,
least.
because the prior owner had grown up in town, lived in town, there was a close relationship and bond. I mean, when they got to the point where they were going to retire a truck from their fleet, they'd sometimes turn it over to the town and say, you know, here. So there was a nice relationship. National Lumber, and Tom has because of the businesses he's in, you know, knows some of the entities with National, and I think he's tried to reach out to them just to get some ideas as to their plans, and I don't think he ever felt he was as successful as he might hope. So I think Mary's suggestion about trying to reach out to these new folks early on when they might be interested in establishing ties makes a lot of sense. But it's a complex of buildings in the very heart of the center of town. And when we've thought about housing and we've thought about what ifs, the question has come up, you know, if National Lumber weren't there, what would happen with that site? Not necessarily those properties, but that site where it's so integrated into the center of the stores right there, the banks there, the library, the church, the school. I mean, everything's close at hand. So, you know, it's of interest to us. So good. That's good. Okay, so Emily's going to establish a Dropbox and she's going to send us some survey questions, and I'll send you everybody's email address that's here so you'll have access to everybody. And what other things do we need to make sure we take care of housekeeping wise? Is that it for now? And
That's
we'll
all
meet
that I
on
have.
the 12th at 8 o'clock. We'll be sure to tell Tom. All right,
Or we could just have, you know, have the meeting.
bring it,
Let him
honey.
find out that way.
Thank you, Emily.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Nice to meet you.
see you.
Nice to
Take
meet
care.
you. See you soon.
Bye.
And thank you, Mary, Evie. Oh, James is gone already. Bob.
Yeah, he dropped off just a couple minutes ago.
Yeah, he probably went through the toll someplace. And Eloise, thank you all.
Thanks, Tim.
And planning board. We didn't have anything else on the agenda, I don't think.
Oh, you're
Oh, we
muted,
did-
Jay.
We should review that modification to the article for noise.
Oh, right.
We also have some
Um,
we can look at afterwards.
Okay. Noise.
Noise. I think that looked good. Because you know how much noise Jay is gonna make. I'm like, Orchard Hill. Oh, Jay.
Of course, it's going to be so noisy.
Yes.
Actually, one thing that came to my attention, which is interesting, I don't know how I got there. I was looking for information about paddle tennis courts because, you know, I built one, and I found something about noise produced by pickleball courts.
Oh,
Are they loud?
Because they have a hard wiffle ball. It's like, remember the old wiffle balls?
Mm.
We used to
Yeah.
do it?
yeah.
They have a ball like that, and they have a paddle. It's like a ping pong paddle. You know, it's solid and it's big. And apparently, they make a very annoying noise.
Yeah. Bang, 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 bang. bang.
Yeah. So, like, you know, if you measure, like, our spec is not producing more than whatever 60 dBA. I don't know how you quantify something like that. But I don't know if you guys know who was promoting the pickleball courts in town. I thought I would at least
The rec
know
committee.
whether they thought about that.
The rec committee also, a very specific select board member is very excited about pickleball.
But who's the proponent of it? If I wanted to just talk to someone, make sure they've at least.
Julie Lee of rec.
Can you send me contact info?
I can.
Because if it turned out, I mean, it's worth exploring, because if it turns out it's likely to be a problem, then they should be thinking about maybe moving. I mean, the courts that are there are so bad, maybe they just move the whole thing back to the back of the school grounds where it's not near any houses.
Yeah, but isn't that land owned by the school?
Well, aren't the current tennis courts on land owned by the school also?
No,
Oh, they're not. Who owns the town? The land?
they're town land.
And does that go back towards the woods, or is it only up front near the road?
I think
Well, I'd say that the town controls all the athletic fields except for the ones that are specific to the school kids.
Right. So are there t-ball games that go, I mean, baseball games that go late? Like what sort of noise gets generated from the athletic happenings now?
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot
And-
farther from the road.
Sure. So if
I hate to see them spend all that money, you know, build the courts and then have it just intolerable to the neighbors. And then what do? Now you've got a huge investment and there's nothing you can do about it.
well, you put up a fence, I mean, there,
No, I don't think it really works. I mean, you can buy acoustic fences, but it doesn't look like they really work.
right.
Whereas if you do a little homework and find out, oh yeah, it is going to be a problem, then maybe you can find a fix before you spend all your money.
Right. Do you want email for Julie or do you want cell phone?
Email's fine.
Okay.
Both, whatever, yeah. Just want to see if they've thought about it.
Right.
I've never actually been near one where people are playing, but I read a whole bunch of stuff on the internet about it. Sounds like it can be a pretty big problem.
Well, how do other cities or towns deal with that, the noise issue?
The only, trying to remember, and I presume what they do is limit the hours and stuff, but you know, there's a company that makes fencing that supposedly knocks the noise down, which I really doubt works.
Well, the highway fencing works. Like it is possible for noise fencing to be effective, I guess,
Yeah.
is whether that's affordable, you know, within our budget or not is a different.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a group of people that work on the project, and if, you know, as long as they are thinking about it, maybe do a little homework on it. That's what I was just, I mean, I don't think we need to offer up a solution. I mean, the obvious solution would be to move it farther away from the road, farther away from the neighbors, so that it's just not an issue. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is build it in a different place. And I'm not sure how much they're gonna be able to salvage of the courts that are there to begin with. So they may end up having to build new.
Yeah, I think the plan is to demo that whole thing. I don't think there's anything salvageable.
Right. So, you know, if it turned out that it could be a problem, then they maybe just find a little bit different location to build it. You know, it's easy when you when you start, but it's not easy once it's all finished, and then you end up having something you can't use. Or you have what's going on with 19 Carter, where you have, you know, a lot of distress between the neighbors and the people making the noise. But what's interesting about it is that so if they did come to a head, like suppose it was a problem, and then we get involved because we wrote the bylaw for the noise, right? And you're going to have people saying, well, it's below 60 dBA, which it probably is, depending on how you define the time. You know, how much time can you produce 60 dBA? Is it 10 milliseconds or 10 minutes? We have no way of deciding whether it's covered by the bylaw or not, you know, or whether it's acceptable under the bylaw. It's just too complicated.
We may end up with motions on the floor to eliminate everything in the bylaw. You know, don't eliminate the first section, just eliminate everything that dictates DBA and hours, you know, any of that stuff. And so let dogs run free, you know, I mean, it may be one of those deals.
Yeah. Well, I think someone had pointed out that it's a very difficult thing to enforce, and I think that's true.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because noise is so funny. You think by setting the noise limit, you find it, but it's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. So I'll give that language to the selectmen for now then, and
yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
your language just at least presents the idea of seasonal permits, right? That's
and then I'll send you, if we're going to hold the hearing on the 23rd, I need to get that to the newspaper before we meet again. So I'll send you a draft of the hearing notice, but some stuff I condensed, and other things I just, like the noise one, I just left the whole thing there, and the same with the floor air ratio. I just left the whole text in place because trying to explain ended up taking more effort than I thought it needed to. So so I'll send you a draft of what the notice in the paper would look like. It'll probably cost us a little more than sometimes, but you know, I don't see any way around it necessarily. So we do the hearing on the 26th.
6. So was it?
Yep, 26th. So
Yeah.
we meet in 3 weeks. We'll have Emily join us. She'll send us some questions ahead of time. I'll give her some emails. I think that time frame that she's talking about probably makes sense given everybody's schedules and stuff. And yeah, and if you come up with somebody from Mosaic or Camelot, that'd be great. And Bob will talk to Jane and I'll see if somebody can identify somebody from Riverbridge. Actually, Scott Hawkins gave me the number of a guy that's interested in being on a town board. So I called him and I haven't heard back from him, but I mean, this might be an opportunity for him just to listen in to the planning board operation. And if he thought it was something that appealed to him, he might very well be someone that might like to run for planning board.
Do
This is
you,
someone- where?
is he, does he live at Mosaic?
He lives at Riverbridge.
Oh, okay.
Good.
I don't know what his interests are. So I thought, you know, I'll talk to him a little bit. And I mean, because there's plenty of opportunity. There's the historic commission, there's planning board opening, there's the housing trust issue. There's, I don't know, how are you right now? You good on?
We're good. Yeah. We filled our last seat and actually I think we're starting to coalesce and come together and it's nice.
Good.
The capital planning group was kind of decimated. Maybe there's an opening there.
Okay. So, you know, and I figured I'd just say, hey, you know, what are your interests? And there's a whole list of opportunities. But if you want to attend the next planning board meeting as someone that's living in housing that's new to Berlin, you know, we appreciate your comments and, you know, and take it from there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What
Okay,
else
I
have
got
you got?
emails here. You got a minute?
Yep.
Go for it.
The chairman is not present. Okay, we got, let's see, starting most recent here. I'm requiring to request the application form I need from the planning board to approve a plan our engineer is doing to add the neighbor house / septic well on one plan versus having two.
That's Karen Nielsen.
Yeah. What do you know about that, Eloise?
The planning board accepted the division of the land, but they now want to go back and just add in, I think, the well and one other thing just on the plan, and then it can be re-recorded.
So that's on Gates Pond Road, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that was, remember, there were the two lots next to each other and one of them went eek, and they did a little swappity swap to make a more
To
even
even it
line.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's up to Richard Hanks, isn't it?
I mean, plans we sign aren't required to show any of that. We
Right.
just show
Setbacks, right?
easements, setbacks. I mean, if there's an easement, we'd want to see it. If she's got an easement,
All I got was what I forwarded to the planning board.
I think they're just looking for where to show the septic well setbacks. Maybe the structure setback. How many plans they need, is it 4, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We already approved the A&R, right? So we don't. get anything.
A&Rs are done. If they've got setbacks I mean, they got to talk to Board of Health and Conservation if they've got some questions about easements or variances or.
Yeah. There's no conservation involvement on
We don't
those
have any
lots.
wetlands on that one, right?
No.
It's just- I think they're
The
just
way
sending-
she said to me is everything was fine, except they had to have these two things on their plan And they asked that the planning board re-sign it. Other than that, there's no changes. So
Well,
Is
we're
the
happy-
registry of deeds requiring?
I don't know who.
Yeah,
We're
think
happy to sign a plan for $50 anytime.
I
each.
think they need to just, I think this is a plan they need to give to the building inspector, not us, because we already signed off on the A&R.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I don't think he has authority to change a plan.
But we don't usually show wells and septics on our plans.
Well, then either you or Jay can call her and talk to her.
I'll find out.
It is
I-
beyond my pay scale.
I think she just wants to put the septic and well on the drawing that they submitted to us, which is fine. You can put it on a napkin. I mean,
Yeah.
to give it to Richard, as long as it shows that there's adequate separation between actually the Board of Health.
And we're happy to sign it again.
And it goes to the Board of Health. And,
Yeah.
and he looks at the distance between the well and the septic and setback from the plot, from the lot lines. All right, so let's go on. We can move on from that one. We got a lot of them tonight. Oh, boy.
Oh, God.
I noted that there is a driving range associated with the property at 299 South Street. Not anymore, but there was. Is this position of the lot subject to the CR? Based on what I've read, I'm not sure if this would allow for any buildings associated with the commercial zone area to be expandable, question mark.
It's everything in the driving range is in the CR.
Okay.
Was the
Except for the
CR ever
building.
recorded?
Mhm.
Was it recorded?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So the building that's there's like a trailer or something, right?
Yeah, it's an old structure that Ronnie picked up from. No, that is a trailer. The
Yeah.
old building, the ice cream place was, yeah,
And is the trailer on the CR?
that's outside the CR. But the CR comes, my recollection is, looking at the plan, the CR comes out
Pretty
and
far.
folds around it, yeah. Oh,
But
I
in
think
the part that is not subject to the CR, it's, what is it, limited commercial or something? What's the zone down there?
residential agricultural.
Oh, it is. So the building
Isn't
that's
it-
there can only be used for residential, right? Or RA.
Yeah. Yeah. Jay, what's the address there? Is it on that email?
It's 299 South Street.
So what happens is Pure Hockey is in a commercial village zone. And the building itself may be in the commercial village zone. That would be hard to tell from this.
Yeah.
The CR comes out to the street. Yeah, I'd say the building is in the commercial village zone, but the CR comes out to the street, and then from there up to all the way to Ronnie's house is residential agricultural.
What about the parking lot and the driveway?
Yeah, I'd say they're, according to this, they would probably be did I say in the CR? They're in the commercial village district. The building is in the commercial village district. The parking lot is as well.
So somebody can buy that property and operate a business?
They could,
In the
They could-
front.
yeah,
On the
in the
trailer.
front.
And they can
But-
presumably upgrade the building, right?
Yep.
With adequate setbacks and yada, yada.
Well,
Correct.
yeah, I mean, they want to be real careful. They want to come in and have some thorough discussion about exactly where the building sits. Because if the building were to be, I don't know,
didn't it used to have septic issues?
That building?
Yeah, yeah, and they went with something lighter because it wasn't a house and, you know, people weren't there 24/7.
Sounds good to me.
I don't know, you'd have to look up and see what was recorded.
Yeah.
Hard to see on the map,
If,
zoning map. So how do I respond to this person? What do we say? It does look like there's a piece of property. It's kind of a trapezoidal thing that's in the limited business zone. That's, you know, adjacent to the Pure Hockey Autism
yep,
site.
they should go see the building inspector.
Okay. I will send him there. Okay, next one here, 299 South Street, that's the same one, yep. Jersey Mike's Subs at 48 Highland Common East.
Wow.
Never heard
Jersey
of that.
Mike.
Mike's.
To whom it may concern, I think it concerns us.
Signs?
I'm inquiring about the zoning process to obtain approval, if any is needed, for the above location. Permit coordinator from an architectural firm.
Does it say which?
It's 48 Highland Common East. What's 48 mean? Are those?
Is that one of those small buildings where the new dental thing went in?
I don't know. I didn't know they were.
Oh,
numbered.
that's interesting. Yeah, that thing still hasn't opened. That has had the dentist sign for like 2 years.
No,
It's crazy.
it's got a big tooth out in front now.
I know,
Yeah.
and it has steel
a cavity now.
studs.
Has the tooth been there for 2 years?
It's been there for a long time.
There were people working on it within the last month. I noticed intently.
I guess I haven't been to BJ's.
Yes, I
for a
have
long
noticed
time.
more people working there.
There was a truck parked outside of it yesterday.
So it says zoning process to obtain approval. With zoning, it's not zoning. It's they need the building permit, right?
Go see the building inspector.
Oh, I'm gonna write that up and then just keep cutting and pasting it.
And if they need sign approval, they need to come back to us with the sign package, but usually Benderson brings that in. I thought.
Okay. Town clerk.
The town clerk sent us some?
Yep.
Well, tough.
Hope all is well. Snow seems to be finally melting for good. Just reaching out again to see if any new opportunities have come up for 2022. Looking for 5 acres or rundown facilities. Well, those just got sold. That town would like to see redeveloped into Class A industrial builds.
What?
It's someone fishing for a property that could be turned into Class A.
I don't think we need to respond.
All right, what's Class A?
It's the best. And they'll send.
A number 1.
Okay, ignore. All right, civil engineer. Hello, Thomas. My name is Mike Girardi. I'm working on a project at 275 Central Street.
Correct.
What's 275 Central Street?
It's 275 and then Fosgate. You're standing in front
Oh.
of the
No, Taylor.
gates on the right. Taylor, yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Taylor
that's right,
Island.
right. So
Both?
275 is the house that's trying to
Bobby.
turn commercial.
Bobby Taylor's.
Oh,
old-
that one.
Yeah.
In search, let me see the date on this, Friday, March 11th. Well, that was a few days ago. Okay, so I'm working on that project in search of a reputable civil engineer. I'm wondering if you have anybody in mind. We'll discuss the project with you later. Home Investors Turning Point Investment. I thought they already finished that project.
What's the date on the email?
11th of March, Friday.
We would
Well-
never recommend anybody.
We don't do that?
I wouldn't
Nope.
think we'd want to go
Or you
there.
give them 3 if you give them any.
Well, I can't think of 3, so we won't give them any. Unless you can think of 3.
Well, there's only 2 that work in town,
I
right?
did
Right.
think of them and I said, guess what? This is a planning board matter, not a town clerk matter.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
You could say we have worked with blank, blank, and blank, right? D&D and there's 2 guys we work with a lot, right?
We work with Ross
Yeah,
I
and
think there's a place in Marlboro.
D&D. And then, place in Marlboro, what's that?
And is it Roy and Dillis or Roy and Gillis or
Well, that's it, yeah.
Right, so it's Dillis and Roy and.
out of Bolton?
Out of Bolton, right, and Roy, that's what it is, yeah.
Right.
That's the only 2
Sean?
I've,
It used to be Ducharme and Dillis, but
that's what it was.
Okay.
And is there, can you think of a third one?
so who else? Where else do we get stuff from?
Go back and look at some of the drawings, I guess.
man,
You know what I could
I
do?
know-
I'd them look at the drawings on our website. There's all the
Yeah.
drawings.
Well, you could definitely give them, who's doing the site work at Riverbridge?
Well, or Highland.
What?
I mean, on Highland Street. Development.
No, yeah, not Highland Ridge. Oh, what the heck is their name?
I don't know. I'm not sure we want to get in the middle of it, actually.
it gets,
It's kind
you
of.
know, you start recommending 3 and then somebody that you leave out says, what the hell's the matter with me? And then you say,
Yeah.
well,
Right.
you know, I'm sorry. And we didn't think they were better than you, but we suggested these guys and they got the business and you didn't, and, you know.
It doesn't look
Right.
good.
So you just say your policy is we don't recommend.
That's the easy way out, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
I agree. Yep. Doreen Middleton. Are there any new development projects? Okay, we're ignoring that one. Banks, pharmacies, restaurants, or stores of any type or size. Culvert connection. No
Covert.
applications for CRMA grants from Mass Division of Ecological Restoration. I don't know what this is about. Notice of a grant opportunity for municipal assistance culvert replacement.
Yeah, they
Deadline was
probably
March
sent it
14th.
to everybody.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, that's
Yeah.
done.
Conservation gets like 3 of those a day.
Okay, and then the town clerk sent us notification of a lawsuit
Uh-oh.
we really have anything to do with. Just the Berlin Woods.
Yep.
That's nothing to do with the planning board, is it?
Is the people, the development at the bottom are upset because they have to pay for their plowing and sanding and stuff, and they want, so they're trying to find out if Dudley Road was ever completely public, and are they by extension a public road?
No, it was discontinued.
Yeah, but I can't find when it was discontinued. And they said if it was discontinued by the town, was it recorded? And I found where it was first at a town meeting. I think it was like in '88. I was a selectman. I remember the meeting, but they asked us to pass over it because we hadn't talked to them. And we said, okay. And then like 2 years later, we did it again, but it was withdrawn or it was passed over. It was not acted on. And then shortly after that, they were in conversations with Mark Rhodes.
It's a private way.
Yeah, well, that's what they're challenging. Because today I received an email from Margaret, did we ever accept Chapter 40, Section 6, which allows the town to plow private roads? And I could not find anything.
No, I don't recall the town ever wanting to plow private roads.
How many private roads are in town anyway?
Clarendon,
Probably a dozen.
Lola or Shady?
Shady is, I believe, public.
So Lola,
Yeah. And then you have some of these. Didn't the fellow on Carter Street across from the gas station?
yep, that's private. And
Isn't,
up on Ball Hill is a private one.
and then isn't,
Captiva?
No, there's a small little 2 subdivision unit further on, almost to the Northborough line.
and then isn't the new over 55 on Highland Street?
That's private. Brook Lane
Now
is
that's-
private. Brook Lane's private. Mosaics, parcels, all those driveways are private. Alden Drive is private.
Yep.
Yeah,
What about the Marks, the development further up off of Dudley? Those are all private as well, correct?
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're saying. They should be public.
Yeah, they're not. They were all developed as private ways.
What does it take to make them public?
Town meeting vote.
Town meeting vote, and they have to be up to public road standards, or at
Right.
least that's what I tell people. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah,
I would imagine that's true, and I bet those roads are not, because they're pretty tight in there.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of why he didn't want to do that.
Right, get more houses in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's on this lawsuit too.
Right.
town meeting, that's the way you do it. And if it included anything, it would just be some portion of the condos, but it wouldn't, I mean, it's, the cul-de-sac is where the cul-de-sac is, you know? That was all part of the agreement, as I remember. Because there was a point where Mark was talking about following the old way, and I remember saying, you don't have to follow the old way. This is going to be a private way. You're accepting that fact, and the road can be built at the most convenient layout that's possible. You don't follow some silly little cart path because
Yeah,
it's not a determining factor anymore. And they said, oh yeah, good.
Right,
Hey,
because
so-
wasn't there some conversation at one point about connecting to the other part of Dudley, and it was just the, whatever it
They
is
just, the
about
people that were there
topography.
were saying it's just way too narrow for the volume.
Right.
So it doesn't appear that we need to do anything because this was really, looks like it got stopped at the select board office and there was a response due within 21 days, which would have been yesterday.
And I've got it must have been an 1.5 inch envelope today concerning that lawsuit. And I
All right.
turned it over. But
Okay.
a lot of times I send it to you. You can always delete it, but I'd rather you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Thank you.
Okay, I got someone here. This is March 3rd. We are a cannabis delivery seeking zoning approval and licensing for 263 West Street. Where's that?
263. Well, let me ask the Google.
Is that the
263.
sushi restaurant there?
It's opposite side of the street, closer to town, so it's, sounds like Moe's.
Moe's.
No,
No.
263 is the Flat Penny,
Oh,
or formerly the Flat Penny.
263, what, west?
Yeah.
it's West
that's
Street.
Three West Street.
Oh, I was listening, I was thinking central. Why
Yeah.
was I doing that? 263 cannabis, huh? That's not planning board, that's, they have to work with the town administrator.
Oh, is that right? Says, please reach out with the steps to begin the process. So I'll tell
So
them
who sent that?
that. Someone from peoplesplant.org.
Yeah.
Because I just got their I just got a septic plan for that. They're updating the septic system.
Huh.
That didn't come through me. This is the first I heard of it.
They have to develop a host agreement and all that sort of stuff, so they've got to work with the town and they've got to work
Yep.
at some point, I suppose, with ZBA, and they have to work with the building inspector, and they might as well start with the building inspector.
Well, he's going to be out tomorrow.
Okay, I think that's it for new emails.
Well, that parcel's not zoned for it anyway. True?
No,
Right. So that's dead in the water right there.
Where did we zone
limited business and limited industrial, I think.
Right.
what is that zoned?
Commercial village.
Yep. Okay. All right, I got it.
Maybe
My
it could be a
bylaw.
cannabis store.
My bylaw is so old.
Doesn't even have it.
No, it doesn't even have cannabis.
Well, you gotta look online at the new one.
Right, because I remember it was very limited. It was like the mall, over off of Taylor Road.
Yep, and that piece off of Bigelow and Hudson that's comes into Berlin that Larkin owns or whatever, yeah,
Right, right.
not Larkin, Perkins.
Apparently, in general, marijuana is producing more tax revenue than anybody expected in Mass.
Really?
I
Good.
don't know why anybody expected differently.
It's great.
My brother went to
Interesting.
look at a manufacturing operation in Maine, which is allowed, because anticipating it's going to be legalized in New Hampshire. And he said it was amazing. It was all automated and, you know, super high tech agriculture, all indoors.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very sophisticated.
On a different note, so Tim, do you remember I told you that I met a woman who lives in the center of town who works over at River Bridge in their rental office?
Yeah,
So I texted her during a meeting to see if she would be interested in the housing, being involved in the updating of the housing development plan. And she said she's definitely interested in learning more about it.
oh,
She would
Good.
be, yeah,
Yeah.
she's really good. So do you want me to send you her contact information?
sure.
Okay,
It's great.
I know.
It's gonna be a fun project.
Yeah,
Plus, I mean, the whole notion of finally beginning to do public forums again, getting some survey work done so we get some comments from people about some thoughts about where they want to see the town go. I mean, all that, that's good stuff.
yeah.
Nice.
Is it going to be a challenge doing the village center thing at the same time as the affordable housing project?
I don't think so, because I think the village center thing they want to really do pronto. They'd really like to do that over the course of the next 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
So I think that would just get done before we do any of these other. The housing stuff will start in the fall, and this one will be done almost by the fall, so.
Well, I'm thinking the village center thing will go on for a long time.
Yeah, but this portion that they want to do, didn't they say they really wanted to? What did Carrie say to me?
Well, so yeah, what they do can be like initiating a longer term project, I guess.
She said the dates are flexible for us as we are ready to get started. As soon as all the right people have had time to review phase 1, feel free to send over any changes that you are interested in. I'll put an August deadline on this so we can get it up and running with a quick turnaround for you. So she's game to try to pull it off in the next 5 months.
Okay.
And so far, I've just sent that storyboard stuff to you guys. Who shall we send it to next?
Like which group or which individuals?
Both.
Hmm.
Conservation wants to see it. You can share it with them.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would probably, I guess, send it to all of the boards.
Yep. But I mean, you can introduce it to
Yeah.
them.
Yep.
I can send it to Economic Development Committee.
Yeah, I mean, I think Peter would be very interested in being involved with that.
Yep. Board of Health.
Board of Health, ZBA.
Just put it up on the town's website.
Well, I want to sort of let it drip a little bit. At least that's how rather than.
Yeah, but
turn it-
how often do you go on the town's website?
I never do, but some
Okay,
people,
that's a drip.
oh, selectmen, select board.
Yes.
Town clerk.
I'll share it with the housing partnership.
Nice.
Well, Linda expects to be home around mid-April.
Would she would like to participate in these discussions we're having about housing?
Probably, but she's afraid to make a commitment. because she goes to Arizona every winter.
Yeah, but I mean, she'd participate in some of this early discussions in the survey stuff, right? I mean,
Oh,
as a
yeah.
member of the housing partnership would be appropriate, right? Well, I mean, I suppose I can just send it to Mary and say the typical group that you send stuff to when you try to cover all the town boards and officers and stuff. Should we just do that?
Right, I mean, what about public safety?
Yeah, because she'd include all them in that, right?
Right,
Sure. If you want it to be discussed, you have to let people know.
Yeah. But I think what we should do is ask ourselves if there's a ring of people, another 10 or so individuals
Mhm.
that need to participate in some core discussions with Carrie as she gets ready to do forums and stuff. So, I mean, I think what Jane Sawyer and Michael and
Yeah,
Well,
we had collected a group.
putting it out for a cast of thousands, from that, I think you will draw in and just say, we expect to get, another 10 of interested people who are close to this project. You're good with words.
yeah.
Well, I open my mouth and insert my foot on a regular basis.
So that I'll talk to Mary and we'll get it kicked out to everybody. All right. Anything else?
excellent. I make a motion to adjourn. How's that?
Seconded.
We have a motion to adjourn. It's not debatable. All those in favor, Carolyn,
Aye.
Jay,
Aye.
Kim, aye. Oh, thank you all.